Jason Statham is more than an actor. He's a force forged from survival, a man whose body tells a story that no script could ever capture. Every punch, every chase, every explosion you've seen on screen carries the weight of a life hardened by struggle, discipline, and relentless endurance. Born in the gray, coal-stained streets of Shirebrook, England, Statham didn't inherit privilege or opportunity. He carved his path with blood, sweat, and a stubborn refusal to be broken. Rumors have long swirled about the accidents he survived, from near-death stunts to career-defining injuries. But what remains undeniable is his ability to turn hardship into legend. By the age of 58, the scars on his hands and the stories behind his eyes are proof. Even the strongest warriors bleed. But his journey wasn't just about physical feats. It was about learning to rise again, every single time life tried to push him down. And what he endured along the way reveals a truth few Hollywood stars can claim. Real toughness isn't invented, it's lived. Jason's story begins not in the glamour of cinema, but in the chill, unforgiving town of Shirebrook, where winter winds cut through cracked windows and hope was always in short supply. Born on July 26, 1967, to Eileen, a dancer whose applause never lasted, and Barry, a man who worked from dawn to night to keep food on the table, Jason learned early that life demanded toughness before tenderness. The house he grew up in smelled of coal smoke and detergent, a constant reminder of scarcity. While his parents counted every coin with quiet anxiety, Jason's older brother Lee taught him lessons in endurance. But it was his father who modeled survival, painting, mining, singing, selling, everything it took to stretch one day into another. In the markets of Great Yarmouth, Jason learned balance not just as a physical skill, but as a metaphor for life, performing handstands before he could even walk properly. Childhood, in that world, was a luxury he never had. Every scraped knuckle, every cold evening selling cheap perfume, shaped a boy who would one day stand against danger, both on and off screen. And while the streets of Shirebrook could have crushed him, they instead laid the foundation for the iron will he would carry forever. At 12, Jason discovered a world where discipline met possibility, diving at London's Crystal Palace National Sports Centre. While other boys chased footballs, he chased the perfect dive, climbing back onto the board long after the janitor had shut off the lights. His hands were rubbed raw, muscles screamed, and the cold water became both adversary and teacher. By 1990, he represented England at the Commonwealth Games, leaping from the 10-meter board with the hopes of a nation and the weight of his own ambition. But destiny, as it often does, hesitated. In 1992, he missed the British Olympic team by a single place. 10 years of relentless sacrifice vanished beneath the surface, leaving silence where applause should have been. Yet in that quiet, Jason found resilience. He learned that strength isn't born in victory, it's inherited from struggle. The pool that once mirrored his dreams gave him nothing back, and yet it shaped him into a man capable of enduring far greater challenges. That same patience, honed in water and solitude, would carry him through the streets of London, through stings of failure, and into the heart of Hollywood itself. After leaving the diving boards behind, Jason Statham entered a new battlefield, London's relentless streets, where survival was earned and dignity cost more than coin. Between 1993 and 1996, he hustled under gray skies, rain dripping through threadbare coats, selling perfume, cheap watches, and small trinkets to strangers who barely spared a glance. Each day was a test, a negotiation not just of money, but of pride, endurance, and self-respect. He had learned long ago that life didn't hand out mercy, and the city proved it repeatedly. Nights were spent in cramped, cold flats where radiators no longer worked, or in rooms with cracked windows that allowed the wind to whisper constant reminders of scarcity. He would wrap himself in a second-hand coat, trying to preserve warmth, muttering, "Just one more day," a quiet mantra that echoed through dark streets and lonely nights. Hunger was a companion, a tin of beans, a stale sandwich, and a cup of tea sweetened with sugar were often all that stood between him and despair. Yet even in hardship, Jason maintained an unwavering code of integrity. "I sold what I had because I refused to steal what I didn't," he would later admit, a philosophy that guided him far beyond the streets of London. In the shadows of the city, while the world ignored him, he trained relentlessly. Push-ups beside his bed, shadow boxing in dimly lit corridors, practicing balance and speed. He honed his body as if it were a weapon, each repetition a silent rebellion against circumstance. The streets became his classroom, teaching lessons no coach or medal ever could: resilience, observation, and the quiet power of persistence. Friends recall seeing him moving through London like a ghost, unnoticed yet indestructible, a man who had endured so much that the city itself became a stage for his growth. And little did he know, every rejection, every cold evening, every bruise and humiliation would later translate into authenticity on screen, shaping not just the actor, but the living embodiment of discipline and grit that Hollywood would one day recognize as Jason Statham. It was in these streets, under gray skies and endless rain, that the foundation of a legend was quietly laid, a proving ground where the only currency was endurance and the only audience was survival itself. Fate has a way of finding the patient. Jason's persistence caught the eye of a London modeling agency scouting for authenticity, not just looks. Soon he was modeling for brands like Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, and French. Connection, not for fame, but for the belief that maybe he still mattered. The real turning point came when Guy Ritchie, seeking a street hustler for lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels, saw not an actor, but lived truth. Jason didn't audition. He spoke. He told stories of London corners, failed deals, and nights soaked in rain and regret. Ritchie, studying him silently, finally whispered, "You don't have to act. You've lived it." That line didn't just change a role. It changed a life. His scars, silence, and raw energy became currency. His real experience turned into performance. The streets that once humiliated him had now written his script. And while the world saw the face of a hustler, they were witnessing the emergence of a new kind of action star, forged in reality rather than fiction. The years that followed defined Jason's legend. From the transporter to Crank, every stunt was real, every kick, punch, and fall a testament to discipline. He refused doubles, embraced pain, and welcomed injury as proof of authenticity. Torn ligaments, bruised ribs, and shoulders that still click today bear witness to his commitment. Critics hailed him as the last true action hero, a man whose silence could speak louder than dialogue. Filming became an endurance test. Hours of fighting on camera, nights of relentless training, days spent hopping between continents. Success became both a badge and a burden. Yet Jason thrived, not because Hollywood demanded it, but because he had learned long ago to endure what others couldn't. Adrenaline became his oxygen, exhaustion his companion, and yet, through the bruises and near-death stunts, the world watched him rise. Every explosion on screen mirrored the storms he had already survived in silence. Fame has a quiet cruelty. Hollywood adored Jason's fists, but ignored his feelings. Offers for dramatic roles faded as the world pigeonholed him into action. Behind hotel doors and red carpets, he battled isolation and mental fatigue. The applause was loud, but the silence was deafening. Sleep became scarce, moments of peace rarer, and every performance demanded more than his body could always give. While the cameras captured invincibility, he experienced exhaustion, a constant reminder that survival isn't always glamorous. Yet even in the lonely war of success, Jason endured. He carried fame, fortune, and responsibility, not as a trophy, but as another challenge to overcome. And through it all, he remained grounded by a lesson learned in Shirebrook. Real strength is not the absence of hardship, but the grace to keep moving through it. Success couldn't shield him from love's cruelty. His early relationships with Kelly Brook, Sophie Monk, and Alex Zossman revealed the human cost of relentless ambition. Distance, fame, and timing fractured bonds, teaching Jason lessons no film could script. With Kelly, loyalty went unreturned. With Sophie, the miles became insurmountable. With Alex, presence was impossible amidst constant travel. And yet, he never blamed them, never lashed out publicly. Instead, he absorbed the pain, replacing heartbreak with discipline, motion, and focus. These relationships became silent mentors, revealing that even the strongest hearts can break, that even warriors bleed, not from fists or falls, but from memories that refuse to heal. Through love lost and lessons learned, Jason discovered that life's most personal battles are often invisible, fought behind closed doors and away from the camera's gaze. In 2010, Rosie Huntington-Whiteley entered his life, bringing stillness where chaos had always reigned. Unlike others, she wasn't dazzled by fame, but drawn to the quiet strength behind it. Simple moments, evening walks through Notting Hill, shared meals, quiet laughter, revealed the man Jason had become, one who could finally breathe without pretense. Their love grew slowly, steadily, a contrast to the storms he had endured. By 2016, after 6 years of weathering distance and gossip, their engagement marked a rare victory, a union built on trust, presence, and quiet joy. A year later, the birth of their son, Jack Oscar, added a new layer of legacy. For once, Jason's life wasn't defined by stunts, bruises, or survival. He had created a world worth protecting, a peace hard-earned, and a family that would witness the softer side of a man the world only saw as indestructible. Jason Statham's journey is proof that true strength isn't measured in fights won or stunts executed, but in the ability to endure, adapt, and rise again. From a boy learning to balance in cold English markets to a man mastering the art of survival across continents, he has turned adversity into legend. Fame, heartbreak, and pain have tested him, but he has never stopped moving forward. Every scar, bruise, and silent night tells a story of resilience and discipline. He has shown that courage is not the absence of fear or pain, but the determination to keep going, no matter the odds. Jason Statham isn't just an action star. He is a symbol of endurance, the last of the real warriors of cinema, whose life reminds us that even the strongest among us are human, and that humanity in all its trials can still shine like iron forged in fire.